Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today's video is one that I'm really excited about. We're going to be talking about some minimalist home organization tips. And I think that in the minimalism community, we've always tended to focus on decluttering rather than organizing and simplifying your possessions and getting rid of this. But while those things are all important, I think that as we declutter our lives and as we simplify, we at some point get to a place where we say, okay, I'm happy with the items that I have. Now, how do I actually organize the items that I have left? So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. I've got 9 tips for you that are hopefully going to help you to be able to organize your home in a logical but simple way. Before we get into this, be sure to hit that subscribe button below, and a big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Okay, let's start off now though with the first tip, and that is to organize by kind. And this one might initially sound like a bit of a no-brainer, but it is amazing to me how often we, just without thinking about it, organize our possessions in a way that doesn't actually make sense. Maybe it's that you store some shoes by the door, others in the cloak closet, and others in your actual closet. Or perhaps when you moved into your home, you kind of shoved everything into cupboards kind of haphazardly, so things are kind of all over the place in the kitchen. And this can be a great tip not only from an organization standpoint in knowing where everything is, but it can save you a lot of time as well, because you're not having to search around the house for, oh, where is that pair of shoes? Where did I leave it? Or where is that pen? If you group all like items together, it becomes a lot easier to find exactly what you're looking for, because you can immediately survey all of the items of that kind that you own and pick out exactly what you need. All right, tip number 2 is to keep cords under control. And I'm a big fan of either hiding cords or at least arranging them in a way that they're not going to become this unusable, tangled mess. So one of the big things that I like to do to keep my cords in an orderly fashion is to spiral them up and then to use either a binder clip or a hair clip to keep it in place so that it's not going to become loose and tangled. And that's a great way to store and organize cords that you use less frequently, but for those that you use on a regular basis or perhaps are always plugged in, my suggestion is just to do what you can to try to hide that cord's appearance. While it might not have anything to do with the true organization of your home, it will help it to appear more visually organized and less cluttered. All right, tip number 3 is to make sure that your most used items are the most easily accessible. And the good thing about this one is that we often do actually organize our possessions based on use, with our most loved and used items being most easily accessible, but this isn't always the case. So just think about whether or not there might be an area or two of your life where you've wondered why the space doesn't feel more practical for you or more organized, and just consider whether or not the items in that space are organized in a way that are going to be most practical and useful to you based on how much you're actually picking up the item to physically use it. Okay, number 4 is a pretty simple one, and that is to make it visible. What we can see, we pay attention to, and will actually use. And a few areas where I think this one is particularly important are our closets, our kitchens, and our bathrooms. Oftentimes, if we have clothing stacked up in dressers, we'll pull out the dresser and not actually be able to visually see the clothing that we have because it's stacked up vertically when the dresser pulls out horizontally. And typically the exact opposite is the case in the kitchen, where our items are stored horizontally, but we see them vertically when we open the kitchen cupboards. And there's a lot of ways that you can get creative and organize your items in a way that you can visually see them, whether that's the KonMari method of folding for items you have in drawers, or there are a lot of vertical organizers for kitchens that you can go out and buy or make your own of. But the key here is just to make sure that the items that you own, you can actually see. Because when we can't see items, we don't end up using them, and so they actually begin creating clutter for us. All right, and this next tip is one of my favorites for organizing the minimalist home. But before we get into it, I want to share with you guys a bit about today's sponsor, Squarespace. And Squarespace is really my favorite option when it comes to designing a beautiful and simple website. And last year, when one of the nonprofits that I volunteer with wanted to switch over their website to a platform that was both user-friendly and robust, I pointed them straight to Squarespace. Whether you're looking for beautiful templates, powerful blogging tools, or great analytics, Squarespace really has it all in an easy to use and simple platform. So if you're looking to start a beautiful website that's easy to create, head on over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Ashlynne Eaton to save 10% off of your first purchase of a website or domain. So big thank you to Squarespace for helping make this video possible. And now let's continue with our organization tips and talk about number 5, which is to use boxes and bags liberally. Now let's be clear, you don't need to go crazy with this one. If you just have 2 or 3 like items, you probably don't need a bag to store them. But if, for example, you have art supplies that you want to keep all in one place and store in a bag, or perhaps you want to have all of your socks and underwear neatly grouped into a series of boxes or of bins, that can really help you in being able to organize your things in a way that's going to keep it neat and tidy, as well as organized in the sense that it's easy to grab and you know exactly what you're going to get when you pull out that bin, instead of having to rummage around for exactly what you're looking for. And then number 6 is an easy one that we've kind of been circling around for a while, but that's to keep everything in one place. And this one ties in perfectly to some of the other ideas we've been talking about, whether that's organizing by kind or keeping things visible. But making sure that every like item that you have is stored in one place is ultimately just going to make it easier for you to find things when you need them. It's a pretty simple one though, so let's move on and talk about number 7, and that's to repurpose boxes and jars. And I love this one for so many reasons. It's great for sustainability, for saving money, for simplicity, and not having to buy more. So this one is really probably one of my favorite tips, but I love repurposing, whether that's jars from old food containers or boxes from when you buy a pair of shoes. Think through how you might be able to potentially use that item to organize the things that you have. Sometimes I feel like we can kind of fall into this mindset of thinking that we need to go out and buy the storage solutions that we're wanting to begin implementing into our homes, when in reality, everyday items that are coming into and leaving our house can often be used to do just that. And this is definitely something that you can get creative with. Pinterest literally has thousands of ideas of how you can reuse everyday household items as unique storage solutions. So if you're wanting to get a little bit creative, definitely check some of those out. But just in general, the glass jars that food often comes in and the cardboard boxes that anything you might have shipped to you comes in can both be used as fantastic storage solutions. Okay, tip number 8 is one that is much more easily accomplished in the minimalist house, but that is to give every item that you have a home. And I think this is a tip that we've all heard before, but are you actually implementing it? Do you put your keys in the same place every time you return home? How about your mail? Do you put it in the same place each time so that you can, in a timely manner, sort through and take action on it? What about your headphones or AirPods? Do those go in the same place every time? Those are just a couple examples, but if you're like me, you've probably been in search of those items a time or two because you didn't return them to their home. Having a designated space in your home where every item that you own belongs can be a great way not only to stay organized and know where everything in your home is, but also to save you minutes or hours of your time each week searching for lost items that you misplaced. And then finally, tip number 9 is to use your available space. And I think that far too often we'll just instinctively go out and buy a chest of drawers or a new bookshelf or one of those cube storage containers whenever we perceive that we need room to store our things. When in reality, oftentimes there's a lot of space that you can use to store your possessions that's going unused in your home. And as I say this one, I do want to caution not to use this tip as an excuse to accumulate clutter because you found an extra place to store it. But for those items that you use and are simply looking to store, places like under your bed, under the couch, or even vertically looking further up in your closet or in the corners of your closet can all be great places where you can kind of find storage space that was otherwise going unused. And I think this tip can be especially helpful if you're living in a smaller space, but regardless of what size of a space you live in, it can be a great way that you can kind of remove some of the items that were visibly cluttering up your space. They weren't actually clutter, but they were perhaps creating visual clutter, and just move them to a place where you're able to have kind of more clean lines throughout your home. And a good example of what this might look like is that personally I like to keep my yoga mat under the bed. That way I can easily access it in the mornings, but it's not visually cluttering up my space during the day. All right, well, those are some of my favorite minimalist home organization tips, and I hope that it gave you some inspiration to really just go into your home and organize it, and making sure that everything has a home, that it's all organized in a logical manner. And honestly, this is something that can really make your home a lot more user-friendly, so that you know where things are, you're not spending time looking for things, and you're being able to really get the full use out of the items that you own. But now I want to know, what are some of your favorite minimalist home organization tips? Be sure to comment those down below, and if you enjoyed this video and haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button below for more simple and intentional living videos coming at you twice a week. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to head on over to Instagram and give me a follow there. I'm at Ashlynne.Eaton, and I have gotten a lot more active on there recently, sharing some of my favorite just daily inspiration for simple and intentional living. So I think that you guys are really going to love that. So yeah, go give me a follow on there if you want. That is everything I've got for you today. I love you all so much. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.